There's quite a lot of stereotypes around console gaming. Hi folks, it's Falcon and today on GameRanks, 10 console gaming myths debunked. Number 10, consoles don't get the equivalent of Steam sales. But the truth is, if you need to find a console game cheap, there are absolutely Steam-like sales, sometimes with extreme discounts. Now, does it happen as often as Steam sales? That's probably a little bit more grounded of a question to ask, but they do happen. And sure, like I said, it doesn't necessarily happen as often, but to outright say that these things don't happen on consoles is wrong. It's not even really a matter of keeping your eyes open either, because Steam sales are so frequent. It's just a matter of more retail-like frequency on the consoles. Number 9, the myth that controllers just automatically suck. 'Cause mouse and keyboard, guys. Like, I am not going to sit here and tell you that for a first-person shooter, the majority of people can at least eventually do better with a mouse and keyboard. That doesn't stop people from using controllers like crazy on Steam. According to data Valve released, there are millions upon millions of Steam users that are specifically using console controllers on Steam. So many that it is impossible to ignore the idea that for a lot of people, a controller is just a more fun way to play. I realize that there are a lot of people that play games for competitive reasons or to even become a professional, and I understand why that type of person wouldn't like a controller. But keeping in mind that the majority of all of the rest of us play games for fun, it makes sense that if we think something is more fun, we're gonna use it. A lot of people happen to think controllers are more fun. It is all a matter of personal taste. And just using controllers on a game console doesn't automatically make game consoles or controllers bad. Also, Microsoft is working on mouse and keyboard support for their consoles, so it's fair to assume that Sony will probably follow with that, because now they're letting their players play Fortnite with other players, and supposedly their experience is superior. That's why they didn't let them in the first place. So, we'll see. Number 8, porting a game to consoles is easy. This, of course, makes the huge mistake of assuming that programming is easy. Programming is not easy. Programming is a skill that takes many years to develop. For instance, Skyrim was notoriously weird on the PlayStation 3. It didn't run well, and doing certain things interacted in a bad way with how the PlayStation 3 handled memory. They had to do a lot of stuff to fix that, and it was specific to the PlayStation 3. I mean, if we want to talk about how hard it is to port something, we can't not mention Arkham Knight, which ran really good on consoles, but like ass on the computer. We've talked about how and why, and it has as much to do with the budget and what the staff is allowed to do as it does hardware, but a port is a port is a port and is always going to have its own unique difficulties, console or PC. Number 7, the myth that all console players are kids. Oh what? Sorry, but I've got a Nintendo Switch, and I play it more than most kids do. And I know that I am not vaguely special for this. In fact, I'm probably on the lower end of the spectrum of the adults playing Switch timescale. The Nintendo Switch has frankly given us a way to play full-on, real-ass video games anytime and anywhere, whether it be on the train or in bed. And it's obviously not just the Switch. Adults actually have lives outside of work and their kids. Adults have interests that can range from movies to music to video games? What a shock. Number 6, the idea that there's way less or even no social communities like on PC gaming. Just because there's communities built into every Steam page doesn't mean Steam is the only place that communities exist. In fact, just saying that should sound pretty absurd automatically. Reddit itself is filled with gaming communities, many of which are very console specific. Many are game specific, and those games might be exclusive to a console. Frankly, this one is debunkable by Google search, and yet it persists pretty hard. Why is that? Number 5, you can't or shouldn't play MMOs on a console, which, if you've ever played Final Fantasy: A Realm Reborn, which didn't start off great, but was a realm that got reborn, it turns out it's not only impossible, but pretty good to play MMOs on console, at least when console conventions are actually looked at as part of the equation. If you have a bunch of endlessly complicated menus on an MMO, it's not going to work that great on a controller. But if it's optimized for a controller, in theory, you could have a lot of very interesting stuff. This of course brings up the debate of controller versus mouse and keyboard, which I think we've already said enough about. It's just different things. And MMOs on console are in some ways a little bit different, but a lot of them are really good and definitely worth checking out. Number 4, the idea that paying for online gaming is stupid. Sure, you don't pay for online gaming on PC, but there's also no such thing as Xbox Game Pass on PC. I mean, unless you get the PC version of Xbox Game Pass, but that costs money there too. PlayStation Plus and Xbox Game Pass are both incredible value deals, and it's just not a thing that we get in the free package, so to speak. Add that to the fact that we're getting closer and closer to an on-demand game service that's actually good, and it starts to make more and more sense why you might pay for a service like that. Now, that's not to say that one is objectively better than the other, but there are pros and cons to everything in life. Number 3, all console gamers are quote-unquote
filthy casuals.
There are a lot of people that complain about the less competitive nature of games that aren't Dota, which, you know, whatever. So you like a game more than another game. Good for you. It's not even competition that makes gaming hardcore. Somebody could play Dark Souls alone forever. That is hardcore. It's a bit weird, but it's hardcore. It's because certain people can only measure their worth in comparison to other people, and that's not healthy. Like, I think competition is fun. Why not have it in games? Why not make it hardcore competition? But pretending that competition itself, or even just one game that happens to be on PC over some of the games on console, is what makes things hardcore? I don't know. And the thing is, it's not just Dota and it's not just PC. It's often exclusives that generate this kind of elitism. Number 2, the idea that consoles are holding back gaming, either in graphics or in general. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen people complain about the idea that because console hardware is technically inferior, that games have to be made for them, and that being they're made on technically inferior hardware, they're worse for whatever reason, either graphically or for some other reason, like consoles are way too mainstream for me, man. And it's not an irrational accusation by any means, but it doesn't really think about the idea that because money is made off of console games, that games get made at all. Gaming itself is an industry that doesn't care about platforms, it cares about money. And if you like franchises to grow and get bigger, I'm not saying you have to have consoles to do that, but in terms of AAA gaming, where companies are trying to reach the largest audience possible, it allows them to actually put more money aside to make the game in the first place. There is more potential for return, without question, by simply associating a console with it. I would argue that if game consoles didn't exist, then computers would end up taking more console-like traits than you probably think they would. There's a certain type of customer that doesn't want to play games on their Windows PC, and they happen to be the majority of customers. They just want to press a button and have the game happen. And finally, number 1, all console games have bad frame rates. None of them run at 60 frames per second, and that's all that matters. Well, have you played Doom? Have you played Doom on console? Have you played, Doom on console? Or maybe the Wolfenstein games? You played those? There's actually a lot of games that do it, but those are pretty good examples, aren't they? Because they're some of the best games of the last decade. Sure, their graphics are a little better on PC. I'm not gonna sit here and say otherwise, but this isn't even actually a good reason. If they only played at 30 frames per second, who cares? How does that affect you? But they don't. They play 60 frames per second in 1080p. So, what are some console myths you can debunk? Leave us a comment, let us know what you think, and if you like this video, click like. If you want to see our brand new videos that go up every single day, click that subscribe button, and also do not forget the notification bell. It's the best way not to miss our new videos, and like I said, they're always coming at you. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on GameRanks.